Okay, here we are at part 2 of our introduction, right? And these will be labeled as such, so should eliminate any kind of confusion. Right? Now let's talk a little bit about naive emotional theory. Are some emotions more important than others? And a naive emotional theory is not to insult. We operate on naive emotional theory. We learn naive emotional theory from the time we're toddlers, probably before that, probably in infancy. Some might argue even in the womb, I don't know about that. But certainly in infancy through toddlerhood, we're beginning to develop theories about the way the world works, and emotion is one of the components of how the world works. Naive theory just means it hasn't been scientifically tested. So if we have naive theory, we never really generated a solid hypothesis that was testable. We might have done some pseudo-type experiments to develop our knowledge. So naive theory versus empirical theory, it's not to put naive theory down. Naive theory is the one we use in doing this business called life, right? So are some emotions more important than other? What do you guys think? What would you, if you had to rank order the importance of emotions, right? On the power or whatever dimension you wanted to measure them on. And then which ones? And I want you to reflect not only on which ones, but then why do you believe those are more important than others? Because now you begin to learn about yourself and your position, your being in the world, right? What is your evidence? And a lot of times we develop our naive theories through our experience, but then we forget the experience and we're left with the naive theory. And it may need to be adjusted, it may need to be adapted, it may need to be evolved, but we've forgotten those experiences that got us to our current place, right? So we're experiential animals. Which emotion is your Achilles heel? Which is the one that's most likely to get you in trouble or separate you from what you desire? What is the one that kind of kicks you in the ass, right? So, which emotion represents your awesomeness? Now, let me give you an example, because I talked about my mom in part 1 as she was descending into dementia. And I remember we had a lot of conversations, but I remember one when we were selling her house, right, and moving her into the independent living facility, her first move. And she said, "One of the things I really like about you is you're so patient." And I know what that meant. She was requesting me to be patient with her as she descended into dementia and was beginning to lose her abilities. And I thought about that a lot, obviously. And a couple things occurred. I didn't consider myself a patient person necessarily to begin with, but she was calling me one, so it would change my behavior in that direction if nothing else. But then is patience an emotion? And we're going to have to ask this question again in this course, because we'll have things that maybe could be emotions or maybe not, and it really is going to be kind of up to us to define whether they are emotions or not, right? And I'll warn you that when we get to our last quiz, one of the questions on the last quiz is going to be, what is your theory of emotion? So I'm giving you fair warning now, we're starting right now, is what is your relationship to emotion? What do you believe it is? And I want you to watch that evolve as we move through the course, because I'm pretty damn sure that it will evolve, that it will change from the beginning to the end of the course. So let's always keep that on what is an emotion and what is not. Is patience an emotion? And I could probably make a case that yes, patience is emotion from a certain set of criteria or, a point of view. And then again, I could probably argue that it's not from another set of criteria or point of view. So you're going to encounter in this course a lot of not right or wrong answers, but possibilities. And when they're possibilities, what sells a possibility is the evidence you can muster to support or refute the possibility. Okay. So which emotion is representative of your awesomeness? And have you ever modified your environment to change your emotional state? And we'll talk about this in one of our assignments as well. That is, to what extent can I control my emotions? If I know a certain situation causes me to have a certain type of emotion, at least it's probable, then can I take control of kind of my emotional being by then avoiding or participating in that situation? So it's a lot of questions, and at this point we would stop in class and I would ask you if you have any questions, and that's, I think, the purpose for the Zoom session. When you come to Tuesday's Zoom session, if you so choose to do, then I want to hear your questions, and I know your classmates want to hear your questions. A lot of us have been locked up and a lot of us don't have much contact, so I'm hoping that our Zoom sessions allow us to be with others and kind of compensate for how the virus, how COVID has kind of changed the way we interact. Now, there's going to be a required paper in this class, and as I said in the little syllabus blurb, which maybe you saw or didn't, there's going to be 5 general topic areas. You can find it in the syllabus in the module section. Down at the bottom you'll see assignment paper, and emotion in the workplace, emotion in relationships, emotional intelligence, emotion and expression of art, emotion and research. Look at them all, read the prompts, think about what you want to do. More on it later, right? Discussion board topics, I think we got 3 coming at us. Is there any stimuli you avoid because of your potential emotional responses I just described? Imagine a friend, and that's going to be another discussion board where you discuss if this friend has an emotion that serves them poorly, right? And what is it? What advice might you give them? Not that people listen to advice. Emotion in advertising might be another discussion board. We'll see. And I might have made some changes here and there in the assignments to fit our online format. So stay tuned. Online activities, name that emotion. This will be fun, right? Others to be arranged based on a sense of your interest in where our exploration leads us. So I've got about half the assignments written and posted. The other half assignments are there as placeholders. I might think about what we're talking about in Zoom sessions, either the class Zoom session or office hours, and modify from there. And these cannot be made up. Your attendance is required, so good for all of us, I assure you. That is, you have to do the assignments. There's no... that's just an expectation, right? There's like no freebies, no missing this, that, or the other thing. And some assignments are going to be group level assignments, so you'll be working with 3 other people, and so you got to pull your own weight. And I'm trying to write assignments on the basis of student advice where people can clearly identify the portion of the assignment they did to kind of minimize social loafing. But part of that's on me. If I make the assignment interesting enough, then maybe you'll be less inclined to social loaf, right? About our book. The authors suggest biological, psychological, social, spatial, temporal explanations are becoming increasingly technical and detailed in their nature. And the temporal dimension, as I've been stressing, deserves special prominence. Time is especially important to understanding our story of emotion. The book demonstrates a preference for overarching theory rather than specifics about individual emotions, and I'm a theory guy, so that resonates with me. But like I said, remember book chapters. Chapter 1.0, right, then ties to lecture 1.0. But when you get, let's say, up to 6, we have, chapter 6 in the book will be lecture 6.0, but 6.1 is not represented in the book, and I believe that one's emotion of psychopathy. So we're going to have a lot of stuff that's tied to the book, but a lot of stuff that I've written originally. The authors, by viewing emotion through a social lens, provide a narrative layering that's less detailed and critical and more flowing and evolving, and I think it makes the book a more interesting read. First 2 chapters may be the toughest of the book because it's largely talking about philosophy. Right? So where the book leaves off, I'm going to endeavor to get specific, right? So there's no easy definition of emotion, and we hope the utility of our study, applicational success to increase. We need to be flexible, we need to be open-minded, and study and apply the ideas which will be immersed, and that's what this is. We're going to immerse ourselves for 15 weeks in the world of emotion. At the same time, I hope not to lose the narrative quality, right, that the book provides. So I don't want to get too detailed and too down into the nitty-gritty, right, where we kind of lose the big picture. So there's got to be a balance between the two. Ideally, we're going to immerse ourselves in a fascinating story of emotion, right, that's informative, useful, and at least, I hope, minimally entertaining, but that's always a tough one, right? So you will be creating your definition of emotion, I said, so think about it on the final exam, which is actually a quiz. Expect the definition will evolve through the course. Start thinking about it now, and enjoy watching your mind evolve your thinking on emotion. Right? And it's going to be an ongoing struggle. It's going to be tough, and that's part of growth, right? And as Friedrich Nietzsche told us, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. So I'm going to leave us the hell on that happy note, right? If we leave having more questions than answers, our journey has taken us to a more interesting destination. And I think that's what's going to happen in this course. I'm going to bet on that we will leave this course with more questions than we had before we started the course. And to me, that is a compelling reason to participate, because there's nothing more fascinating than energizing our own curiosity. So I'm looking forward to the semester. Remember, you got multiple ways to access me. You got email, you got Zoom sessions, etc. So anytime, let me know, and I'll be back to you quickly, and we'll get things done. See ya.